Today, I'm going to rate celebrities' English and assess their speaking ability if they were taking an IELTS speaking exam. But also, I'm going to give you some tips and advice that you can use in your IELTS speaking exam to increase your score. Tay-tay time. A really good tip for practicing your IELTS speaking is actually listening to very good speakers of English just talk. But sometimes that's really, really boring. So instead, choose your favorite celebrity, answer questions in interviews. They're doing the same thing that you're going to be doing in your IELTS speaking exam. And you'll get really interesting vocabulary from them.
Like, it's very mood board, how I go about.
It's very mood board. Okay, first to mood board, that's this, if you didn't know. But this is what I want to bring your attention to. This structure right here. It's very advanced and it's very modern. So it sounds very good. When you describe something as being very noun, not adjective, you're specifically talking about its style, its vibe. Yeah, you won't learn this in school, especially if your teacher is from an older generation, because it's quite new grammar. It's very good to use. I use it a lot. And it shows you've had interaction with current English being spoken. This is seen as a complex structure because not everyone knows it. And you definitely, like I said, won't learn it in school. The pronunciation sounds off if your word stress is off. Stress the adjective or the word so, like this. You're wearing those shoes. They're so granddad. They look like a granddad style of shoes.
Something that I feel like has a nice ring to it and has a theme.
Great range of vocabulary. It has a ring to it. Here is why Taylor Swift might not get a 9. Let's imagine her examiner is not familiar with the grammar structure. It's very plus noun. So they count that as a mistake. Maybe they count the excessive use of like as repetition or hesitation. The examiner might mark her down for that. Just to be clear, you can have hesitation in your answer if it's content related. What does that mean? For example,
I really try to think of like, what's the title that would best describe this?
Here she's using like as a filler word because she's thinking, okay, how can I best express my thoughts and ideas? She's not confused about the correct grammar for this. She's not trying to translate the word from her language to English. You know what I mean? So yeah, for me it's a 9, but if that answer got an 8.5, now you know why. Remember, IELTS examiners are just humans, and sometimes humans can be dicks.
You guys should really see yourself ever since day one you step into this common house. You guys have really grown so much, even myself.
Oh my God, I can't imagine how nervous you must feel. Not just talking in front of other people, but a whole other language, which isn't your own. This is a good thing to remember. Your examiner knows that you're nervous. Everyone's nervous doing an IELTS exam. If they're not, they're a psychopath. Your nervousness will not lower your score, I promise. So having this hair though, that will lose you points. That's a 0, sir. Okay, just by the way she's talking, pronunciation, we can understand everything. We're looking in the 7, 8, 9 range. More the 8 to 9, like she uses a wide range of grammar structures flexibly, like...
The more you grow, the more experience you have.
And...
I used to say things that I didn't really mean.
Wide range of vocabulary and using it perfectly.
You can share the burden with others. You can feel the hardship.
Brilliant. The only reason this doesn't get a 9 is because...
The more you hold yourself back, life will punch you harder. So just stick up and deal with that.
You can have grammar slips and still get a 9, but they need to be, you know what the mistake was and you just slipped. Everyone slips. I slip. You slip in your language. So that's not a problem. And this doesn't stop us understanding what she's saying. I think on a regular day in conversation, she probably would have said the correct thing. Stick with it.
But you know what?
And here,
things that pretty sadden me is that kids nowadays are forced to grow up so fast.
Things that kind of sadden me. But because they assess you on this specific exam, there are too many mistakes here to simply ignore, and the examiner might rightly say, okay, your grammar isn't quite good enough to be in that band 9. So this makes it not a perfect answer, but I would be very comfortable giving her a solid 8, maybe even an 8.5, because it's obvious that nerves really affected the way she gave the answer. So 8.5. If you want to make sure that you are ready for your IELTS exam, I've made a perfect place for you to study. Here you'll get regular mini tests for IELTS reading and listening to keep you on your toes. You'll receive regular PDFs to improve your IELTS reading and vocabulary skills, all created and illustrated by me. You'll also get access to an exclusive IELTS community, and I'll be there to keep you updated with anything IELTS related. You'll make a new study buddy to study with, and if you sign up to Exam Success right now on papateachme.com, using the code IELTS, you'll get 20% off your membership forever. But this offer finishes December 31st, so you need to hurry. Okay, back to grading. IU. Okay, if this were a real IELTS speaking exam, IU gets like an easy 6. That sounds harsh because we both know that she's actually very good at English. But the IELTS exam doesn't care how good you sound in general. Your IELTS score is only based on the answers you give at that moment and how well you deliver those answers in that moment.
Finally, I'm ready for my first concert in Singapore.
Okay, great fluency and coherence, speaking without really any hesitation. So we're looking around the 7 range. Pronunciation is very important in that I have to understand what you're saying. And her pronunciation is very, very clear. So that's very good, really helps her score. Okay, so here's the thing. In real life conversation, this is great. This is great English. Nothing wrong with it. But IELTS wants a very structured and elaborate answer using complex vocabulary and grammatical structures in order for you to get that tasty band 9 score. So for IU to get a higher band score here, this would be my advice. We're going to change this sentence.
Since it's my first concert in Singapore and also it's my 10th anniversary, so special, right?
To this upcoming concert in Singapore marks a milestone for me and my career. I'm going to be celebrating my 10th year in the music industry, which is a significant occasion for me. This version includes more complex grammar structures. I'm going to be doing something. We're using more sophisticated vocabulary. This upcoming concert, it marks a milestone, a significant occasion. Significant is a very good IELTS word to know. Also here, where she says,
I really wish to meet my fans.
When we say, I wish to, blah, 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 that's for something very formal, like a complaint. Think of Karen grammar. I wish to speak to the manager. IU is not a Karen, so it sounds very unnatural for her to say that here. Yeah, instead just say, I can't wait to meet my fans. That sounds more natural, good grammar, much better. Remember in the IELTS speaking exam, they're not trying to make your score low. No, they're on your side and they want you to succeed. So give the examiner reasons to increase your score. Use what you know. Use complex grammar correctly. Use sophisticated vocabulary. It all helps. And remember, having an emotional connection to what you're saying, it gives you this natural fluency that really helps your score. It's hard to sound scripted and robotic if you feel a certain way about something, right? So yeah, always good to talk about something you feel passionate about. Those are just some examples of how IU and you could take an answer that would get a band 6 and turn it into a band 8. Easily, she could get an 8. Putin.
And guests of the General Assembly.
Like, I'm not saying Putin is a bitch in that way. I mean, he is. Well, this lean is giving Mean Girls You Can't Sit With Us. We do not wear pink on Mondays.
We are going to build a massive state-of-the-art complex.
Right, so on the surface, this answer gets something like an 8. Great vocabulary. State of the art. Although it is weird that a word which means new is becoming old-fashioned. Weird, right? Nowadays would more naturally say like cutting edge, or if it's a complex that you're building, you'd probably just say ultra-modern. That sounds more common and a bit more natural. These days, massive, we could change it to expansive. That just sounds better. That's just me being nitpicky. The vocabulary was very advanced throughout.
All this time,
Very few grammatical errors, almost none. He also forgot a couple of the's.
surely time has come to
The
change.
time has come. Someone is getting thrown out of the window for that one. These mistakes don't hurt comprehension. We understand what he means. Okay, pronunciation. This is an important point. Yes, there were a couple of words where I was like, what's he saying? Like,
Our pavilion won the Golden Gold Medal.
that took me a couple of tries to know it's coveted. The IELTS does not care about your accent. If we can understand your pronunciation, your accent does not change your IELTS score. It is coherent and we can understand the whole thing, but it's kind of obviously scripted. And remember, if you rehearse a sentence or a chunk of speech that you want to use in your IELTS speaking exam because you saw a video of 10 IELTS words that you must use in your exam, no. The examiner will know that you've rehearsed it. It won't sound natural and you won't get those tasty fluency points. So don't bother. But I think the most important thing to get from this is maybe don't invade a neighboring country just because you think you're going to die soon and you want to be remembered for something. I think that's the biggest letdown here. And for that, he gets nothing. There's a big fat 0 for you, Putin.
We'll have
Oh, king
an
guy,
economy
seriously.
based on wind. I never understood wind. You know,
Okay,
no windmills.
here is a perfect example of why native does not mean fluent. IELTS asks just one thing from you. Communicate your answers effectively, clearly, and fully. You don't need to use big fancy words in your answer. Just stay on topic and you'll be great. If you're trying to express a thought, take it to completion before starting the next thought. Then you'll be great.
You know, we have a world, right? So the world is tiny.
His response here shows signs of repetition, lack of coherence completely, the inability to take a single thought to completion. This puts him at a band score of around 5, where there is some fluency but noticeable issues in maintaining coherence. It's not a 4 because his speech is not slow. In fact, the words pour out of him like diarrhea.
Tremendous if you're into this. Tremendous feelings.
So he wants to
gases.
describe the impact of windmills, but there's no varied or advanced vocabulary. So this places him in a very low band range. Again, around a 5. Like I said, it's not necessary to use fancy long words to give a good answer, but you do need to show some kind of varied vocabulary and preferably less common words. So to improve his band score, this is what will change.
They're noisy. They kill the birds. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard?
Instead of this, we'll say this. Wind turbines are often criticized for being noisy and for their detrimental impact on bird populations. See, just a little change to the vocabulary and grammar structure already sounds much better. And we'll change this.
I've seen the most beautiful fields, farms, most gorgeous things you've ever seen. And then you have these ugly things going up.
To I have observed that wind turbines, which are often perceived as unsightly, are being erected in areas of natural beauty, such as pristine farms and fields, which substantially detracts from the visual appeal of these great landscapes. This just gives a more detailed answer with what he's trying to express, and again shows a wider, richer vocabulary, and gives the IELTS examiner more to work with. We'll also change this.
And sometimes they're made by different companies. You know, I'm like a perfectionist. I really built good stuff.
To the construction quality of these turbines varies significantly. There's that word again, significantly. As someone who values perfectionism and high quality construction, I am disturbed. Now obviously pronunciation will be the strongest part of his answer. We understand everything except for this.
Energy. And I think India, really, they're okay.
No idea what that is. Pronunciation is very, very important. However, again, you need to be intelligible 100% of the time to get that band 9 score. So, okay, overall, his response would fall within the band range of 5 or 6. Why? He's a native speaker, right? Well, remember, his score is based on the answer he gives, and the answer he gave did not have good fluency. His vocabulary was not wide nor rich. But the important thing that I will always come back to is he really needs to organize his thoughts more coherently. Because at the moment, wow. Don't forget to join Exam Success on papateachme.com so you are fully prepared for your IELTS exam when it comes. Remember to use the code IELTS for that 20% discount. And let me know, do you agree with my ratings today? Who should I grade next? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in class. Bye.